Greg says you got to take the subway in from New Jersey. You got to take the bus across 168, get off, and get on the A train and come down to the village, and I'll find you. My grandmother was about to lose her mind. But the trains were dangerous, man. They were. It was a different time, and I got confused. I got like, you know, I don't know where the hell I am. It's the first time I've ridden this New York City subways. First of all, by myself. You know, the very first time, and it's by myself. So I went up to the ticket booth and I said, you know, what the hell? Where am I going? And they said, well, you go down the stairs there and get on the A train and stuff like that. And I heard them whisper as I left the booth, he's going to get killed.
New York City was certainly a different city than what it had been just a decade ago.
I remember the blackout in '65, and it was a night when it was a full moon, and people were generally, they reacted to it, well, oh my goodness, this is something novel. People helped one another, people helped with transportation, candles were lit. People basically reacted well. 77 blackout, that didn't happen. Parts of the borough, Brooklyn, they tore up. One area that I look at, Broadway, and you know, down Broadway, let's say from Eastern Parkway all the way to the Williamsburg Bridge Plaza. The looting and the rioting, that area never, I don't believe, recovered.
Hundreds of buildings were set ablaze.
So by 1977, when the lights go out, there's a fantastic difference between the way the city reacted in 1965, when the lights went out, and 1977. Right? I mean, in 1970, it's called a sneaker riot because people were after physical goods that they couldn't afford ordinarily, that would make their life better. And so in Manhattanville, for example, the sneaker stores were hit. Up and down Broadway in Brooklyn, places were burned and looted. For a couple of days, it went on until the power was restored 2.5 days later in Manhattan. And it took a while in the rest of the city.
Joe Sanchez, a New York City police officer during the 1970s, recalls the event.
I worked in the 3-0 precinct, the time that during that blackout. I was in Central Park when it came. I was in Central Park during the concert. You know, a few of us were assigned from the 3-0, other officers from different commands. When the concert ended, I think it was about, I forget what time it was, but I know it was almost. It ended about 8 o'clock or so, and that's when the lights went out. I reported back to the 3-0 precinct, and of course we couldn't go anywhere because it was going down. But I will tell you this: I made six arrests that night, and I'll be honest with you, it was tough, but there were a few cops stealing that night too.
Even the men who were meant to protect the city turned their backs on it for their own personal gain. So one can just imagine how the common man would have reacted.
Yes, it was a free. It was an opportunity, you know. I mean, it was an opportunity. I was working up in Washington Heights, but all over the city, people were looting. I mean, it was temptation. It was easy. I mean, they were breaking into drugstores. They were breaking into furniture stores. We respond. We take off. They go back in again. You know, everybody was taking advantage of an opportunity, and they did. And it was a bad night. It was a bad time. But all I know is that the average cop did his job. But I came across in my own command. I came across at least you know, because I was stealing. They took advantage of what was down there. You know, they go into a jewelry store that was broken into, and if they found something, I mean, a lot of temptation. What would the average guy do? Nobody was going to know. Nobody was going to say anything.
To balance the budget, many jobs had to be cut.
Mayor Beam ultimately had to lay off somewhat in excess of 60,000 city employees. 30 athletic instructors teaching kids how to play basketball. It's very nice. But you can't afford it if you don't have money.
That's true.
So I said, get him off the payroll. And the union leader, Victor Gottbaum, said, give me 30 days. Victor Gottbaum was a labor leader then. He's now in his late 80s. We remain good friends. And 30 days later, and he came back and he said, I got rid of the basketball instructors. They're now typists. So he put them into a program where they learned to type, and they filled typing programs. You know, and the best of all worlds, you would just get rid of them. But you have to have, if you can help keep somebody working, you should do it. I'd hate to have one of them as my secretary, but...
The cuts in the police force led to a massive increase in crime and violence across the city. In the 1970s, the police force was reduced from 31,000 to 22,000.
Oh yeah, crime was heavy during the 70s. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, especially after the layoffs. Yeah, crime did go up. During my time, it was hard because I wanted to be a good, honest cop, and but there were people that I worked with that weren't given the opportunity. If the opportunity presented itself to make some money or find some money, whatever, they took advantage of that. But during my time in the police department, yeah, I came across a few cops that were corrupt. But being that I was in the department and I had a career to think about, I did what the average guy did, was just keep your mouth shut, do your job, and let internal affairs handle it. I had information of a gang called the Aviles gangs. These guys were not teenagers; they weren't kids. Freddie Aviles was involved with the mob, the Mulberry, the Italians. Yeah. When it came to heroin, but things went bad. His brother was arrested. The Fed had him. NYPD had him. He was walking on crutches because he had been shot and attempted homicide on him. But he needed to make money, even though he was let go. He was working for the NYPD because he had so much information on homicide, narcotics. He was good. They let him stay on the street as long as he gave the NYPD and the Feds information. But he needed to make money, so he had his own little gang who robbed social clubs. Fridays and Saturdays, you deal with social clubs, you gamble. Mm-hmm. His gang would go in there and rob the people, I got a tip on him. I started, on my own, off duty, I started investigating him. I knew who he was, I followed him, and they almost spotted me once. That's another story. But I had information that we're going to hit a bank, and I got the information. They were going to hit the Williamsburg Bank in Williamsburg. When I reported it to my commanding officer, he told me, this was his words, I read it in the book, what are you doing? Let the fucks kill each other. This ain't Park Avenue. That's how they treated the ghettos area.